All right, everybody, welcome to today's Skill Up series. My name is Emily Spranger. I'm an academic trainer in the Graduate Studies Support Center. I'm very happy to have one of our very own faculty, Dr. Paul Markham, come to discuss a business person's fast track guide for Chapter 1. Before we begin, I'm going to do some very brief housekeeping items. We are in a meeting format, so I would like to remind you to stay muted unless you are going to be asking a question later on in the session. We will see if time permits for that. We are recording our session, and as always, we will post it in our Graduate Studies Support Center webinar section. And I think that about covers my housekeeping pieces for today. So I am going to turn this right on over to Dr. Paul Markham.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. Can everybody hear me? Great. Look, this presentation today came about because essentially I want to actually hopefully save at least one of you some time doing your dissertation. I come to you today, I'm in Chicago, but the accent comes from a different place entirely, and no, it's not Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about a business person's perspective. And the reason I know this is because I'm one of them. I'm one of you. If you're a business person and you're in this world of academia and you're wondering, what the hell is going on? Why are these people upsetting me? I've had 20 years in the business world. I've got my opinion counts, all that stuff, right? That's what I'm hoping that we can get through here. Australia, even kangaroos go to university. I am the least likely person you are ever going to meet. Background's electronics engineering, business. Went off and did an MBA, worked for a large multinational, came over here to America in 2001, been involved in lots and lots of things, startups, growth companies, always around technology and stuff like that in healthcare. I got a bit of a weird personality. It's called a whole brain thinking, or a blink. You can Google that. But without doubt, to start this presentation, I was the worst doctoral student ever. I take full responsibility for being a horrible student, but I will say no one told me anything that I'm going to tell you today. No one. As far as I was concerned, I found a business problem out there. It wasn't too hard. It was a problem, it's called medical death. And my idea was that I was going to write this dissertation to solve the third biggest killer in America, which was doctors not adopting technology that we were marketing to them and stop killing people. To me, that was an obvious thing, and I was just going to run off and write my dissertation. How hard could that be? I did everything wrong, and hopefully from this, some really simplified messages today, I hope. And I'm always happy to take a call. You've got your own chairs and all that, but I often take calls when people are literally at the point of what I was 100 times, where I just said, I can't do this anymore. These people are doing this on purpose. I remember saying to my supervisor, which was like a chair, I said to him, you're only doing this to me because this keeps you in a job. That was my perception of this. But again, they never really told me what we're going to go through today. My road to this was I ended up, my personal brand is engineer, entrepreneur, educator, and work on your personal brand. That's the marketing coming out of me. But I actually got involved in academics because my university asked me, hey, do you want to be involved in the first global, this is back in 2012, we conferred PhDs with ESL Chinese students from their country, and I was setting up here using Cisco telepresence. So that's how I kind of got involved in after I got my doctorate. I then started conferring, and then I saw NCU was doing doctorates on a one-on-one model. I thought, wow, that's exactly in scope with what I'm really interested in, and that's really this whole world of artificial intelligence, AI, AGI, and ASI. So now let's get to the point. The business person's mindset, and hopefully no one's offended when I say this, because this is me. I had to have ego. I had to be a leader. I had to have a personal brand, as I showed you before. It was about me being competitive in the market. I had to be confident. It was no good me going to a board meeting or a management meeting saying, well, I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm not really too sure. I had to be persuasive and use my opinion. Selling and marketing the personal brand was a daily thing, not only in the marketplace, but up against every other person, all the other managers that I was here. The people from Germany were fighting for their thing. Somebody in Singapore. It was a never-ending thing. And here in America, we had the issue of the people from Philadelphia ran the company, or the guys in Boston. The point of it was, our whole thing was about competing and delivering ahead of time. It was all around that. So unfortunately, that mindset. I had an MBA. I thought I was very successful. I thought in business, I mean, I got paid and they told me, so they must be right. So when I came in to do a dissertation, I thought I was going in to do like what I thought was an MBA plus, okay? I was going to get in here, I was going to write this dissertation. I already knew the problem, right? The medical death, and I can't get these doctors to accept technology. So I'm just going to get in there and write this dissertation and we'll be done, right? Deliver it ahead of time. I mean, I knew the answer, okay? That's what I thought, I knew the answer. No one told me what I'm going to tell you next. And if you haven't heard this before, I hope somebody's told you this before, but I came with the wrong mindset. I literally came into this thinking, I'm going to get this done ahead of time. No one's going to get in my road. I don't have to worry about APA and all that stuff. I mean, it's all silly academic stuff, right? I know what the answers are. It's just not applicable. Yeah, if my supervisor, and I say this to all the people I work with, if they had sat me down and said, hey, Paul, sorry, but this isn't about you, I would have said, well, wait on, everything's about me. I'm a business person. It's all about me from the perspective of presenting my case, gaining buy-in, all that stuff that us business people have to do constantly. It's a constant battle. It's this idea of almost being in a manager's meeting and so forth, trying to get your point across. No one told me that. If they had sat me down and said something very simple like, hey, what this is about, you're not writing an MBA pass. Actually, what you're doing here, you're a shepherd. I would have said, well, wait on, what? I'm the leader. No, you're not the leader. What you're going to do, it's more like writing an operator's manual. I would wait on, what? I just wouldn't have believed it, right? The academic mindset is a very, very different perspective. And the business person normally comes into, we got this one right. I know what the problem is. Now I just have to write the paper. I know how long this is going to take because I don't have time to mess around with these academics and the whole thing. I need to get this done ahead of anybody else. If I could give you $1 for every time somebody has handed a paper into me in 9901A that's got 30 pages already written, I know why they're doing this because I did the same thing. I wrote 60 pages of a dissertation, sent it to my guy. This is a long time ago now. He just put a big, this is British guy. He wrote across it in red writing and said, this is total rubbish, right? Didn't tell me why it was rubbish or any of that sort of stuff. But the fact was, I also thought I knew what a dissertation was. At NCU, NU, the amount of help you've got is unbelievable. But if somebody said to me, you've got all this help back then, I probably wouldn't have listened because I would have said, hang on, I'm an MBA, I'm a VP of this or whatever the heck was the title at the time. I don't need to be reading through or attending little sessions on the ASC. I probably wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have done it. Can I just say this to you? Please listen to what I say today. And I'm going to tell you why. You're going to get through this in record time. And you're going to say to yourself, I hope, oh my God, is that all this is about? Because it's something very different, I think, to what most people think, most business people. There's the key point. Know the answer to the problem. I knew what the answer to the problem was. We needed to hire more people in American hospitals that were like, that transformational type leader, so that adopt technology and stop killing people. I knew that, right? So I went in with the business person already solved the problem mindset. If somebody had said to me, no, you're not solving the problem. In fact, the problem isn't out there. It's in the literature. I would have said, what? I would have said, what are you even talking about? What? So the point of all of this is that I think somehow you've got to come in here and don't take offense at it. Oh boy, I had a phone call the other day from a dissertation student. She was screaming down the phone at me. This SME has really upset me. They're saying that this and don't have an academic tone and all the rest of it. And I said to her, look, you're right, I understand. She said, I've been in business and I'm a C-level and how can they say this to me? Don't take any of this stuff personally, because the academics, I'm one of them now, right? But a very weird one, I guess, but it's nothing like that. It's like, think about an academic as someone at the DMV. You know, when you go to the DMV and you wait an hour, then you go up the front and they say, fill out the form, and you say, well, I haven't got that. It's not negotiable. You've got to do certain things. There's a thing called a template. Honestly, if somebody had sent me a template, I would have said, I'm not using that. It's not how I write. There's a template. There's the Academic Success Center. They tell you exactly what to do. And frankly, you do not know the answer to the problem. You may think you do. You might have the answer to the problem, but in most cases, the business people and dissertations, it's like oil and water. It just does not work. And why I'm telling people this today, I hope that if you can listen to a couple of these things, I've got some resources if you want me to send them to you. If you can listen to this, you are going to go through this in record time. And I'm going to show you two case studies coming up soon. One person that did it my way, the wrong way. By the way, I'm saying this because I did exactly the wrong way. I absolutely did. If I had my time again, I could have done it at NTU. I would have actually signed up and did it differently. So day one, we know nothing. Okay, that's a really tough thing to take as a business person. You know nothing about the process. And I got to tell you one thing that really nailed it with me, with my dissertation guy, who was horrible, is the only word I can say. Now we're friends now. Of course, we got through all the drama, got the dissertation, did the exam, the whole thing. But he called me one day, and again, this is horrible, but it's a true story. And I was so angry that he was going on about APA and he was going on about periods and commas and all that. And I said, Tony, for God's sake, this isn't important. And here's what he said to me. He said, what is important to you? And I said, profit and loss statements, balance sheets, of course. And he said, fine, send them to me, send me a profit and loss. And what I'll do, I'll take out all the decimal points and the commas. I said, no, you can't do that. That's important. And that was what the day that came to me, get over yourself, Paul, right? This is about a set of rules, and the reason the rules are there, because no one told me this either, is because it makes your publication more credible. And once you publish this thing, trust me, people read it, it's online forever. So again, we really know nothing. And the fact of the matter is we business people aren't actually important yet. Chapter 5, you might have some importance, but in the early days, it's about reading literature and finding out if whatever you want to do has any relevance in the research world. And all of that stuff was just not relevant to me. Academic mindset. You know, you are now a research shepherd. Now, again, for marketing people, it's really tough. And a lot of business people, we're already researchers. As far as we're concerned, we're better than those academic researchers. And I could argue the point that these days, marketing research with artificial intelligence is way ahead of some of the stuff in academics. But the fact of the matter is, all of a sudden, we aren't important. We become a shepherd of literature. Right, everything that you go to do here, just try and take yourself out of it. And ultra accuracy. People go crazy when they get their paper marked up, and it seems like people are being pedantic, but they're not being pedantic to upset you. They're being pedantic to help you. And it's a pity that everybody couldn't write, hey, sorry about this criticism, but we're trying to make sure your paper is better. And really, it is that simple. Come open-minded and don't draw conclusions. You know, I had one dissertation student. She's fabulous, actually. All she wanted to do was write her dissertation on Black female executives in the banking industry. Awesome dissertation. She ended up doing a great one, but she'd already drawn conclusions about what the outcome was going to be. And she came back and apologized. She said, oh my God, I was so wrong. The fact is that we think we know what the answer is, but the bigger question is knowing what a research problem is. There's a couple of words that are so important in these dissertations. When someone says the problem statement, they're actually saying the research problem statement. I wish, Emily, close your ears, I wish they'd call it a research problem statement, and then all us people would have an easier time. We in business, we don't have to look for a problem. We go to the office and we see over there's a problem in the sales department. The marketing's a problem. There's a purchase problem. There's some other problem. We already know the problem's there. The fact of the matter is that isn't what we're doing in a dissertation. It may end up being applicable to that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a research problem or something that you're going to write in a dissertation. Your scope needs to be small enough to achieve the outcome. I literally was going to interview 5,000 hospitals because I'm a business person. Of course, I can do all this stuff. I was going to interview all these people. You've got to be able to actually get to the end point. The worst thing is when people get to the D course and they actually, their dissertation journey finishes. It drives us absolutely crazy. So the other side of it is flawless. Sometimes when we write business documents, we're kind of very conversational. People think in the dissertation world, it's about using big words. It's exactly the opposite. It's about using confidence and confident words, evaluate, stated, argued. It's not about being passive. So the academic mindset, you've got to get this up front. So almost like if somebody could have said to me, Paul, that's what they should have done. Park your big, ridiculous, narcissistic ego at the door. That's office. That's for the market. Now you're in here and what you're doing, you're like a shepherd where you're going to go out and look at the research around, in my case, transformational leadership and technology adoption model. I had a mixed model and both leadership and marketing dissertation. I didn't even look at the literature because I already knew what the answer was. The fact of the matter is that you're going to see people in research studies saying things like this. Future research should be into, you don't even have to look for a problem statement because it's in the literature. But that's why you don't know the answer yet. Now, possibly what you're looking to research is something that is research, there's research demand for it. There is a possibility. And the fact of the matter is your opinion is not yet important. That sounds horrible, doesn't it, for us business people? Oh my God, my opinion is not important. It really isn't. This needs to look like it is the most objective piece of work that you didn't even write it. We don't need to see you until chapter 5. And don't take that offensively, because the more this looks like it's literally come out of a federal government policy manual or something that's literally just objective. Like you're never going to see subjectivity when you go and buy an IKEA operator's manual. And that's what you need to do here. You have to get into this mindset. So key learning point, and what I never did until right at the end, was learn the rules, right? And the rules here at NTU or NU, the rules are just so phenomenally well explained. Somebody's do the template, they're not saying it to be an enemy or trying to crowd you or confine you. They're saying it because they want you to get through this damn thing quickly. Give you another example of somebody came to me and he was a member of Congress. He won't mind me telling you this. He calls me and he says, "Hey, Doc." And I said, "Oh, hi." He said, "Hey, listen, I need to get through this quickly." And I said, "Well, that's cool. I'll tell you what to do. You won't listen because no one else does, right?" I didn't either. "I'll tell you exactly what to do." And he did it. And he got through the chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, got through it in record time. So what I'm telling you and learning the rules and using Academic Success Center, always look at these things as making your life quicker, not the opposite. Learn the rules. So I'm going to give you case one. This is a real case of somebody that, frankly, I want this across right. This was an impeccable student, fantastic at writing, all that stuff. But she came to me on day one. I felt sorry for her and I told her that, but she didn't listen. And I thought to myself, well, I don't blame her because, well, guess what? I didn't listen either. She said, "Hey, Dr. Markham, I'm really excited. I won't tell you the problem," but she said, it's fine. We're going to get through this thing real quick." And I said, "Oh, great. Tell me about it." She said, "No, I've already started writing chapter 1. I should have it done probably in the next week or so. I know what's going on. I know what the problem is, and I deal with it every day at the office. I know what I'm doing." And I remember saying to her, "Please don't do this. Please, I'm begging you, don't do this," right? So anyway, she went and wrote the dissertation. The next thing was she didn't want to wait for me to grade it, so she put it on the doctoral record. The SME logged in. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. She didn't have time to review literature. She was a senior manager in a company. And by the way, I knew exactly what she was talking about. I know about hanging around in airports. I know about your manager saying, "If you don't get the numbers, we're going to fire you." I know all that stuff. Anyway, the point of it was what she did. I kept saying, "Oh, look, honestly, I looked up, I'm being recorded, I shouldn't say this, but I looked up some literature for her and sent it to her. And I said, here, look, here's some people looking for future research into almost what you're looking at." Because she didn't want to do that. She didn't have time for the ASC sessions. I know I'm saying that a lot, but it's really important. They tell you about the problem statement. That's the hardest thing to get. And you are never going to get it. This key point. You're going to find that in the literature. So with this person, she didn't want to read the literature. She didn't want to do that. I don't blame her because I wouldn't either. But anyway, she didn't have time for the sessions. And I don't think she felt she needed the sessions because she was a senior manager. It's a very, very hard thing to get through to anybody. And anyway, she then said for what she wanted to do in her business world, she wanted to solve this business problem, right? But there was no research demand for it. Was there research demand for something almost what she was doing? Yes. Did she do it? No, she didn't. So here's the tale of woe for her. She's wonderful, by the way. She got through. She's now got a consulting business. This is not all bad news, but the pain she went through, I felt it because I did the same thing. She went A, B, C, D, then got a 3-week extension on the D course. Then she called me one day and said, "I'm just going to have to settle for what we call anchor authors for the problem statement." And then I said, "Hey, listen, you can do the ASC sessions. You could even do it in the background." And she then got through the problem statement, which is a session on there, the purpose statement, and then you use an alignment diagram. All this stuff happened. I think she got it done in a weekend. So she went through the absolute pain and suffering. Anyway, much later, she did the 2, then 3. She did the interviews, and guess what? When she did the interviews, she asked in her interviews exactly the questions she wanted to do her research study on. The reason I say this to you is that don't be the senior business manager. I felt so sorry for her. She did come out the other side with a great dissertation, some great findings, but the pain and suffering she went through up front was tough. So now let's look at somebody else here, and I'll try not to bore you too long here. So I get on this call one day, and I'll just have a little sip here. This 24-year-old comes on, fantastic actually, she's full of energy. And she says, "Oh, Dr. Markham," she said, "I haven't had a lot to do with business or marketing, a little bit, right? She'd done some work in social media and stuff, but she then goes on to tell me, but I have been doing the following." I said, "What have you been doing?" And I assumed, we were going to do the same thing, didn't want to do anything and all that. She'd read this thing called the DSC. By the way, there's no way I would have read this. No way. I wouldn't have read it. I would have made any excuse under the sun not to read it. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Read it and actually read it. It is a fantastic document. I've never seen anything like it, right? She then tells me she's attended these sessions and reviewed all the documents. I honestly thought I was hearing stuff. I really did. I said, "Oh, really? Oh, okay, that's cool." And then she said, "But can I actually share my screen?" She did this to me. And I said, "Sure." And she has up on the screen something that I will share with you after this, if you want me to. She just had a simple table. It wasn't even a spreadsheet. She had all the literature she'd reviewed around this topic. In her case, it was something around social media. Not very exciting, but it was still valid, right? She had 150 articles had all the names of the articles in one column. In the next column, she had all of the what is called what the future research is from each of these studies. Every article you open, they'll have something about the article, they'll have the article, and then normally at the end of it, they'll have, hey, there should be future research on. Guess what? That's where research problems hide, right? So she then says this to me, stunning. She says, what I found is there's 10 or 12 authors that are looking for this particular thing, let's just say XYZ in small service-oriented businesses. I don't want to give away what she did, but she's nearly about to publish now. And I said to her, she said, now, where do I find my research from? And I said, you found it. All jokes aside, she wrote chapter 1 in one weekend because what she'd done, she already knew, she already had the research problem. She already had read all the documents. So the reason I say this to you, business people see ASC sessions, DSE, they see that as a waste of their time because they're smart enough not to have to do that. I would have said the same. Here's the difference, but doing that stuff made her life much quicker. Oh my God, it was amazing. She came back, you've then got to submit it to this people called the doctoral committee. Boom, it was approved, right? Then she's on to chapter 2, well ahead of when she should have been. My point is, there's a way to do this, right? You know how I say the easy chapter 1 is the easy way to do this is to really just read what the DSE is. Even if you skim it, at least open it. Honestly, again, I would never have opened it. And Emily, I'm sorry to say this, I wouldn't have. I would have been, even if I wasn't busy, if I had a Sunday afternoon, I just wouldn't have done it because somebody was telling me to read it. I just wouldn't have done it for that reason, probably. Again, worst student ever. Probably all you guys are great students, I don't know. The ASC sessions, right, she went there with her knowledge of the literature she had a look at. And we've got PhDs on that actually help you write fake problem statements and purpose statements. Now think about this. Chapter 1, any one of you on here is probably awesome. You write the introduction's easy. Once you've got the problem statement, it tells you in the template what to say. The problem to be addressed in this study. If I could give $1 million of advice, just use what they ask for. Why? Because you're going to get through quicker. A lot of people do all of this meandering around. If you just literally use the template, do the sessions. Anyway, then she did the purpose statement. There's always a couple of things people mess up there, but nothing tremendous. She then used the alignment document that everybody gets, right? And then literally, she was done with chapter 1. So the point of it is, either you can come as a business person, as we mostly do. We mostly do this. We know what the problem is. We know what the issue is. Reading literature and all that, it's way too difficult. Or we don't really think that we need to read the literature because we know what the problem is. The problem, the research problem, is going to be found from researchers interested in the research. For instance, I might want to do my research on mountain biking in Utah, but if there's no demand for that research, people say this to me as well. Oh, but it's a gap in the research. There's a trillion gaps in research. It's whether or not there's any interest in the research being written. And honestly, business people, they'll hold out on this forever, saying, well, I know there's a problem. There may be a problem, but you don't have research demand. But I can guarantee you there will be research demand for something almost your problem. And if you do research with surveys, or however you go to do your study, quantitative, qualitative, you're probably going to find out the initial answer to the problem. Or what you can do what this student did, went through heartache beyond belief, and then eventually when she figured out essentially what this student figured out very early on, like I remember this student saying to me, well, I mean, chapter 1 was pretty easy. And I thought, wow, really? Because chapter 1 is normally, honestly, it's like, this is like a wild horse for business people, chapter 1. Getting through that is like, honestly, taming a wild beast or something. But this person here, almost like the sad thing about it is, guys, having the business knowledge, the understanding, the opinions, the standing, if you want to call it, in the business world is actually can be a real weakness. So your strength in business world can be a weakness in here. This particular young student, she had no problem with reading the literature and then finding what the authors were seeking future research on. Whereas I would have read that if I had have ever done it. I had to in the end because I got forced into it the same as the last case. But if I hadn't done that, I would have got to the end of it much quicker. Now, the other side of it is, you know, this, by the way, this is just an idea of what she sent me. This is a problem demand table. Okay, on the left here with the article name, she had 150 articles. Down here, it had the need for more research themes. She had 10 to 12, all saying the same thing. There's your problem statement, right? Literally. In here was the ASC scheduling. Somehow she found this and she did the problem statement, the purpose statement, and then the research questions rolled directly in it with this table down here. So the point of it is, if you can please do this for your own good, see this as not what you may think it is. This isn't MBA plus. This is like somebody's asking you to please write an operator's manual, and actually your business and stuff is not important yet. It's going to be when you go to do your research, and when you actually go to do the research, and then you go to, for instance, write what we call chapter 5, which is really implications of what your research are. This is up on the screen right now is what's called the template. And honestly, the amount of times I say this to students, and I always say it, and in my head I say, you know what, Paul, you wouldn't have listened to this either. You know, you really wouldn't have, because people see this and it says, you know, begin with the problem to be addressed. Now, if I had read that, I would have said, I'm not going to write that. That seems too kind of like, I don't know, too straightforward. We're writing a dissertation, for God's sake. We've got to make this sound exciting. Fact of the matter is, this thing is another instruction book. And by the way, I'm not saying that dissertations are not complex documents. They are, but they're different to what you think. I've got like another document that I send out called Optimizing Words. And people often say to me, these don't seem like very complex words. And I say they're not. But in the business world, we're very conversational when we do documents, right? Very conversational, friendly, opinionated, persuasive. Here, we're very direct and straight to the point, very confident writing. That's what I would say. We'll never have passive language, or very little amount of passive language in this. And it's literally, this thing here explains exactly what it is. And here's the good news for you guys doing a dissertation at North Central. And I'm not advertising North Central, but here's what I hated about academia, was that you had a bunch of academics that all had their own opinions. See down on the right side here, where they've got all these little, these sort of notes that tell you what to do. They almost match entirely with what's called a rubric, which is in the doctoral record that you have to be graded on. So when somebody comes back and says does not meet expectations, it probably means that you haven't followed the template. Do you see what I mean? And this is really for people, for your benefit, not ours, right? It means that whoever's grading your paper is very, very, what I would call objective. So number one, research problem demand is key. If you think you're going to write your research, and business folks do, and good for you, by the way, I love business people, I do, and I love them that much. That's why I'm doing this for a job, honestly. I'm not kidding. Somebody said to me, that's how I ended up doing this for a job. I thought, I just feel so sorry for people that are in corporate world, and they come in and try and write one of these bloody things and then find out, oh my God, like, what are we doing? Research problem demand is key. It doesn't really matter if it's a little different to what you're looking for, it's important. So let's just sort of talk about the takeaways. You know, how to simplify the dissertation journey. Lessons learned translate into time saved. Honestly, please listen. Some of these things that they're probably telling you that you think they just want to waste my time because it keeps the university in business or whatever. That was my approach, right? What's this APA? Why would I have to go to an ASC or anything? All of that stuff is going to make everything easier. I mean, it just is, because even like when you get to the IRB, people say, oh, the IRB, and I say, hey, there's some really good training on that. And most people, I wouldn't have done it either. But if you do it, then you go through quicker. So anything that they're saying to you, I can't be sure what your academics are saying, but I'm guessing they're saying similar things. And you've got to come in with the right mindset. Almost like, think about it like this. This is like you've been asked to serve on a committee or something where you're writing a policy manual, right? Did you hear that? You've been asked to serve on a committee. You're not the leader per se. That's the thing that's really hard here. You may be the leader when this thing gets public. Yes, there's my thing to shut up. And the other thing too is procrastination is the thief of time. Here's what I'll say to you. In the business world, it's all about timing and getting things down. I'm telling you right now, calendarize this, get stuff in on time, read that DSC and you'll find out week 4, you've got to do this, week 9, you've got to do this. But most importantly, I hope from this, that somebody just gets one nugget and thinks, wait on, that with a weird accent from South Texas, I'm kidding. That guy on that thing, he said you can do that. Not only can you do it, you can go and teach this stuff later. And I normally get from people that they go, man, you really get this, but I only get it because I went through it. And here's what I'm going to say to everybody here. Honestly, it is impossible what you're doing. I know you can get it done, but you're trying to hold down a job. You're trying to juggle 12 chainsaws. You're trying to keep the boss happy, keep a job on top of that, pay the bills, inflation, all the rest of the stuff we're all dealing with, COVID, travel, airports, all that. Oh, and by the way, make sure you get your APA right. I get it. I get it. It's like, are you kidding me? That's just not important. Well, it is important here. Just think about you're in a different world. And on that, listen carefully and execute, but don't take it personally. I took everything personally. How can these people be saying this to me? I'm a winner out there in the business world. How can they do this? I do this every day of the week. Listen carefully. And I've just got some other things here. I've got this thing called Dr. Paul's TARDIS, a research problem. I could chapter videos, optimizing words. If you want me to, Emily, I can put this on our website or something. But these things here, honestly, they're worth a read. That's all I can tell you. Again, that's my story, and that's it. That's all I've got.
Dr. Markham, thank you so much. And I think when we originally connected, we were just talking about the importance of, from the business person's perspective, of problem solving and having the answer to the problem. And then you're like, right. But wait, they have to do the research first. So.
But we're paid to have the answer to the problem. Or if these are all business people on here, they know what I'm talking about. They go to work and the business people tell them, right, their manager says, well, hang on, I'll just look here. Hey, I've got all different names on here. Hey, Tony, well, no. What's the answer? Well, I don't know the answer yet because I'll have to go and do research. What? It's all about being problem solvers. And it's really tough when you get into this and you think, wow, like, what else? I'm sorry, I'll shut up. Has anyone got a question? Or you can always.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and field that. We did have a couple of questions and that happened in the chat. I just want to make sure that we mention this on the recording too. Depending on your program of study, I know Dr. Markham is here representing SOBE, the School of Business and Economics. So those students would be going through our dissertation student experience or the dissertation center for those handbooks, the templates, and the rubrics. But I don't want to confuse anyone who may be the ADE route. So if you are on here just as a student trying to learn a little bit more about the dissertation process and you're not under the School of Business, make sure you're grabbing your templates from the appropriate center. Great question from Emmanuel. So not wanting to fall into the trap of procrastination. So when is a suitable time in your program to start actively researching for the dissertation? And I know this is going to be your personal opinion, Dr. Markham, but would you mind sharing?
Well, so I'll answer it on a personal stage, and then I'll answer it as within this dissertation. A procrastination with some things, just ask my wife, I'm the best procrastinator of all time. But in this, so we're all human, okay? But in this world here, I've got one dissertation student right now. She's awesome, but I said to her, in other words, she is way ahead, right? It's never too early to do literally anything you can. Now, when I say that, I'm not kidding. In the dissertation phase, there's 5 chapters. Then there's a thing called an oral dissertation, okay, which is an oral presentation, oral defense. Now, what I say to people, literally, set up your computer. And by the way, I should be careful here. This is my opinion I'm giving you here, so you don't have to do this. I would say set up your computer, literally have chapter 1, chapter 2 folders for chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and oral defense. And then I would have literally blank copies of each of those with nothing in them, right? Just to get you into a mindset, and then look at that DSE or whatever you use in your school and literally start calendarizing it. And I'm going to tell you why, right? Here's why. If you're in the business world, stuff happens. Hey, Tony, we need you to go to Zurich. Oh, hang on, I've got to get my chapter 1 approved first. No, you've got to go to Zurich, then South America, then you're never, ever going to have a spare moment. And the other thing I'll tell people, if you don't know this, get to know reading times. I mean, this would drive me crazy. Reading times, when you get into the doctoral record, people have a certain number of days to read your paper. Now, I normally try to harangue people, SME, an academic reader, but all this information is in the DSE. So to answer your question, honestly, get real organized. How about I do this differently, Emmanuel? I don't know what you do for a job, but here's what I'm going to say to you. Imagine if your job depended on it. I know it doesn't, okay, but imagine if your manager, or you might be the manager, just say somebody says, hey, you got to get your operating plan into the company by March 31st, or there's a big problem. Whereas in this world, it's kind of softer and fluffier, right? You know, no one's gonna, you're not gonna lose your job. Self-impose these dates on yourself. Put them on your calendar so they'd be annoying to you. Now, the fact of the matter is, stuff's going to happen. You're going to get sick. Your family's going to get sick. If anyone's got kids, you know what happens there. Everything. You're going to be traveling for work. Your laptop's going to blow up. Everything that could possibly happen is going to happen. Assume that. So I often say to people, always get ahead in this if you can. It's really, really important to get ahead on this. That's all I can say. Get ahead. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question properly, but I would almost manage this stuff like you're managing a business plan, literally.
No, you are, Dr. Markham. I think that some advice that I have been given, I'm not in the School of Business and Economics, but some advice that I have been giving is by multiple professors at the university is, whatever my research interest is, whatever my potential topic might be, I had been advised or guided to gear my weekly assignments towards that potential dissertation topic. So then all the while I'm fulfilling the requirements for my particular course, but I'm also influencing my work that I'd like to do later on down the road. And then Dr. Markham, I'm sure you've heard this advice as well too, for students to reach out to their faculty members and to share some of your potential ideas for your research. I think that's a great way to conceptualize your ideas and your thoughts. I don't know, Dr. Markham, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's just I think if we just bring back to procrastination, how about if you look at it differently? You don't have time to procrastinate. You might just think you do. For instance, I hear this a lot. What you said, absolutely, Emily, I'm agreeing with that totally. But what business people could do, I could easily do this. Well, they're reading my paper, so I'm going to go on to other things. Well, honestly, frame up chapter 2, frame up chapter 3. You don't write it, but do anything, but don't do nothing, because all of a sudden something's going to happen in your life, right? I hate it when business people get busy or they get a promotion. Oh, hey, Dr. Markham, I got a promotion. I'm now chief something or other officer, and I'm moving to Texas. Oh, awesome. But all of a sudden they wish that they had moved ahead. When you've got a spare bit of time, just say to yourself, I don't really, and go to your faculty and say, what can I do? And as I say, I've got this one student right now. She actually asked me, what can I do? And I'm just like, wow, I've never heard that before. And she's in business and she's awesome. But the point is, she's now ahead and she's sort of driving us, not us driving you. This isn't, by the way, this is something else, Emily, no one told me. You're an independent researcher now. I bet they didn't tell you that. In other words, we are just, us faculty are really navigating for you. You're very well, you can argue with, you can push back on us, all that stuff. We love it if you do, because it shows the confidence of a researcher. I just got up on the screen what I call turbocharging words. Some people like this and use it. They go through and basically pull out a bunch of words in here and turn an MBA document into more of a doctoral type thing. It's a different perspective. It's a different competence, but that's kind of it.
I liked that list of passive,
Turbocharged. Yeah.
passive versus present. That was great.
Well, but a lot of people do that, and
Yeah.
they, in business world, we do that, but that's not what we do. We don't do that, and it drives people crazy when I say remove passive language, and it's like, wait on, that's part of my personality, and I say, yeah, but we're not looking for your personality at this point. And they're like, wait a minute, what? Everybody's looking for my personality. I'm the senior vice president of blah, blah, blah at American Express. And I say, look, I know you are, and I respect that, but over here, you're a research shepherd. And they're like, well, what?
Dr. Markham, I know that you had mentioned from your personal experience that you
Yes.
came in with a problem already decided.
Yes.
But just to follow up on this is our last question. At this stage of the of a program, Erica's question is, at this stage, should we already know what we are supposed to research? What if it is not approved? And I think this is just a follow-up to working ahead and trying to be proactive in your research, but maybe not get too far ahead. What are your thoughts on that for the?
So you mean approved by an IRB?
Yep, I have a feeling that's my assumption. Erica didn't explain, but.
So it's funny you say that. The university I went to, you had to do a thing called a research proposal, and you didn't even start anything. I'm not saying it was good because it was absolutely harrowing. You didn't get to start any dissertation until the research proposal was approved. Here's what I can say, the good news about NCU, I truly believe this, is that there's so many checks and balances before you get to that point, honestly. So it's kind of like anybody on here in business that knows what a Gantt chart is. This is kind of like a whole bunch of, this happens, then that happens. If you can't get the research problem, I'm telling you, you won't get the purpose statement. If you can't get the purpose statement, you're probably not going to get to the research question. If you get through those things, it's going to show research demand, kind of a chapter 1 situation. There's no academics that I know out there, at least the ones that I know, that are going to let you go down a track that is not going to be approved. You start to look again, there's so many materials. If you go to the ASC and just say you came there with some crazy idea, I've seen some crazy ideas, but normally us faculty pick it up. One idea I love to death, I said to the guy, you can't do it. He wanted to talk about the solar flares and how the circadian rhythms actually were going to impact, people trading soybeans. Now, the fact of the matter is that was not really related to what he was doing in a business world. So, but we're going to pick that up pretty easily. I'd be really surprised if anyone let you get to chapter 1, 2, 3, dissertation proposal, something there's been a major failure in the system, because it just so, again, chapter 1 is going to be read by a chair, an SME, chapter 1, 2, chair SME, chapter 1, 2, 3, DP is going to be chair SME academic reader. And one thing to know about academic readers, hopefully there's none on the line here, but if you think the chair's bad, wait till you meet the academic reader. I'm kidding. But again, those people, they're here This is the thing. Business people look at that and say, oh, this is really offensive. They're here for you, actually, so that you don't publish something. Years later, someone said, hey, that study you did, it was stupid. You know what? It had no merit. Like, why did you do that? They want you to get out of this study and have a really, really solid. That's why people, I think, I'm always very friendly with people right up until I'm dealing with dissertation now, and I'm pushing them because I want them to have a real merit out of their study. And just if I could close on one story that really changed everything. I had a dissertation student, I'll close on this, that I pushed her hard. She was up out of the East Coast somewhere. She was sick of me. I'm sick of this dissertation. I'm sick of you. I'm sick of everything. I said, okay, that's fine. Now, I need you to go back and get some more interesting data here. So here's what she did. She was doing it on alumni. The alumni, Gen Zs have no alumni interest, right? So universities in the old days, the alumni would get new students from their brothers and their sisters and their kids and all that. But that's not happening with Gen Zs. But here's what she found when she dug into the data, and she loved it. She came back and said, oh my God, I just found out that this particular age group, I think it's male Hispanics, right, completely contradicted every other part of my study. I said, yeah, and that became her story. That's I'm not going to say her name, the Kim story. And guess what she did? She goes around universities in America now explaining the differences in her study. That's why people push it. I don't get any benefit from it. You know what I mean? It took her, and her study went from, yeah, we agreed with everyone else. And then it took her to, my story is, I'm Kim, and I found the employee retention. Think about this in America right now with all the colleges, oh, what are we doing online, COVID, the whole thing. And all of a sudden, she's got a story for Gen Z and actually enrollments. What? She can't get, she gets invited to conferences, all because she did just a little bit more looking at the data and found these two outliers. And for some reason, it made a big deal. Anyway, so that's kind of me. I appreciate everybody for listening, and hopefully maybe one of these nuggets helps somebody.
Absolutely, Dr. Markham, thank you so much for talking to us about a business person's guide to chapter 1. We really appreciate it. And I will post some of these resources too in the email that I sent to you all. I'd like to thank you all so much for attending our Skill Up series. Keep in mind, we're always looking at ways to provide you tools to be successful in your academic journey. And that is really what our whole Skill Up series is about. So if you have suggestions, please feel free to put that in the survey that you should get after the close of our webinar. And until the next time, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. You take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.